Hello, thanks for listening to Mueller, She Wrote. I'm talking to you because we could use your help. There's lots of costs associated with creating a podcast. There's editing, sound equipment, writing and research, hosting, shipping costs and merch, branding and web design, consulting and IT, and I'm not too proud to ask for your support. Our patrons are the single source of revenue to cover these costs, and to be totally transparent, we're still in the red. That's where you come in. By becoming a patron, you not only support our efforts, but you support women in podcasting and media. And the best part is that it's not a one-way street. In return for your pledge, you'll get access to our bonus content and ad-free episodes. You'll receive our weekly newsletter and our MSW Book Club membership. And you'll get all sorts of great rewards like t-shirts, stickers, reusable tote bags made from 100% recycled materials, and even our limited edition polonium tea from Russia with Love, created just for us by our friends at joyceteaspoon.com. So please help us out and head over to MullerSheWrote.com and subscribe today. You'll be glad you did. This podcast may contain laughter.
So to be clear, Mr. Trump has no financial relationships with any Russian oligarchs.
That's what he said. That's what I said. That's obviously what our position is.
I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians.
What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him other than he will respect me. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
So, it is political. You're a communist.
No, Mr. Green. Communism is just a red herring. Like all members of the oldest profession, I'm a capitalist.
Hello, and welcome to Mueller, She Wrote. I'm your anonymous host, AG. I work high up in Trump's executive branch, so I have to keep my name out of politics so I don't violate the Hatch Act. Not to mention, I'd rather not alert the administration to what I'm doing for fear of retribution. With me, as always, is Jaleesa Johnson.
Hey.
And this week, you'll be going over Broidy being under investigation in the Ukraine.
Correct, yes.
And we have Jordan Coburn.
Hello.
And she'll be covering the Nastya Rybka lady and the journalist covering her.
Yes.
And what happened to that guy. Mm-hmm. So I'll be going over the Comey Memos. So how are you guys this week?
Good, yeah.
Yeah? Good?
Yeah. 420, was yesterday.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, for when we're recording.
I forgot.
True.
Yeah?
I was telling you guys before the recording, I forgot to smoke, and I'm a huge stoner, but, everything has just been going so well, and, we've been so busy that I literally just forgot to celebrate. I was just working. I was just hustling.
She's high on the pod, you guys.
I was high on life, yeah.
I learned it by watching you. All right, cool. Well, I have a few corrections from last week, you guys. First of all, I called Chuck Schumer Chuck Grassley. Oh, shame for shame. No one called me out on it, though. They called us out on a lot of other shit, but not that.
They don't care about Schumer.
They got their chucks crossed as much as I did. So sorry, Chucks. Also, I mistakenly said last week that our review of A Higher Loyalty would start today, but our MSW Book Club episodes come out Wednesdays. So oopsie, sorry. If you're looking for that, it doesn't exist yet. And finally, last week, Jaleesa posited that Hope Hicks could be Trump's bastard love child. Mm-hmm. And we got a bunch of really nice email letting us know that her father is alive and well in Connecticut and their family history is really well established. So sorry if we weren't clear that we were joking. Mm-hmm. But man, you guys are on it.
Yeah.
I promise to appreciate your candor if you promise to let us joke around once in a while.
Yeah, the day we start calling people bastard children seriously is the day we've gone too far.
That's a sad day. Yeah.
I think we can agree. And besides, if we don't laugh, we'll cry, right? So again, sorry about that. We weren't clear that we were
just a joke.
We were joking. I was surprised. Perhaps it was the genuine surprise on my part that, made people feel like we were trying to report the truth there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure.
We're not Alex Jones. We don't use our tinfoil caps for journalism. Just for jokes.
Yeah,
just
we're
for other
authentic
things.
parents deniers.
Yes.
Anyway, you guys, let's get into it this week with just the facts. So there was a lot of news that dropped over the weekend while we were recording, so let's start there. First, The Guardian reported that an invoice was found during the raid of Cambridge Analytica in the UK, showing major donations to UKIP and Brexit. And that's the first, I mean, we had already talked about this. We had assumed that they had funneled money into UKIP and Brexit, just like they funny money.
Funny money. That's
Just like they
money.
funneled money into our campaign, right? But this is actually the first documented evidence tying Cambridge Analytica to Brexit. So that was pretty significant.
That is very significant. Not a surprise. Another neo-nationalist movement.
Also very messed up. Also, it was reported by the Wall Street Journal that Michael Cohen used the same Delaware Limited Liability Corp, LLC, to set up payments in 2 secret deals relating to sexual encounters involving his clients. So Brody paid Cohen a total of $250,000 for setting up the $1.6 million abortion deal with the former Playboy Playmate. I'm in the wrong business. I just need
that's an expensive startup cost.
I just need, like, my new goal is to hump the RNC chair and a finance chair and just see what kind of money I can get.
In the direction
right?
of the top RNC donor.
But if Cohen's in jail, I don't know how I'm going to pull that off. Maybe he'll flip. We'll
Amazing
see.
that their desire to get their sad dicks wet is stronger than them trying to protect everything.
Their
they
freedom.
have.
Yeah. Well, you know, they say the power of, you know,
pussy.
I wanted to say it. Yeah. I just didn't know if I could, but it's our podcast. Yeah, the power of pussy is strong.
We're stopping at pussy. We say fucked up shit on
We
here.
do. We say bastard children, but yeah, no. Yes, they say
we're working on it, you guys. We are. We're
absolutely.
We're trying to be very. No, we're not. But yeah, and it's interesting too. You see all these articles written by dudes usually who are trying to tell us how to make our vaginas better, and I'm sitting over here like, demand's pretty high. I don't think we need to. If it ain't broke. Not as broke as Brody is after he paid off this guy anyway.
Nice.
So and then there was also the $130,000 payment he made to Stormy Daniels. And that came out of the same company. And I think that money didn't come from him. This is me. This is my little theory here. This is my tinfoil hat. I think it came from shell companies. I think it was funneled maybe even from foreign donations through shell companies into his LLC. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in one of our minisodes where we talk about the 6 things to know about the Michael Cohen case, about a potential slush fund being set up for this shit.
That sounds nice. Slush fund.
It does. It kind of sounds like slut fund.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought like Sonic slushes.
Thought fund.
Nice. Charity, like food for thought.
It's called Thoughts and Prayers.
Thoughts for tots. No, that's not.
Oh, that's terrible.
That's totally
That's
wrong.
a Roy Moore Foundation.
We're drawing the
we don't
line
need to get into
at
that.
Thoughts for Tots.
So anyway, there's even a record out there that $129,900 was deposited into Trump's campaign from shell companies.
Wow.
That sounds like a weird musical, right? $129,900.
Yeah.
Also very close to 130,000.
You so close.
It's like suspicious.
It might actually be like 129,948 and 62 cents or something. I rounded. It's close to $130,000 to Trump's campaign from shell companies, and that I feel is probably laundered Russian money. Maybe UAE, could have been Imbiza.
Any of those would look so bad.
That's all conjecture. Anyway, Sunday night, Trump and Cohen both filed motions in the Cohen case in the Southern District of New York to demand that they get to go through the rated materials before a taint team and take out what they think is covered by attorney-client privilege. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure any reasonable judge would let a criminal sort through the evidence before the cops do. I'll have pics of these letters in the newsletter this week for patrons because they're just so funny. Anyway, later on in the week, the judge summarily denied their requests, but may suggest the appointment of a special master. It's widely believed that the judge will appoint a special master from the list that the prosecution provides, because I don't even recognize the names on the list. Like each side got to put a list up and said, we want these guys to be the special masters, and Trump's or Cohen's side had, I don't know, Sideshow Bob on it, like just weird, like probably nobody you would want to go through this evidence before the cops got a hold of it. So also over the weekend, the House Intelligence Committee, GOP, made a sneaky rat fuck move, and they demanded that the Comey Memos be released from Rosenstein, knowing full well that the DOJ isn't supposed to hand over documents that are part of an ongoing investigation. And
this is the Nunes camp?
Yeah, this is Nunes, Gowdy, Gates, the fuckboys of Congress.
Oh my God, the next boy band. That's perfect.
Congressional fuckboys. I think this is a setup Basically, they want to create a conflict where Rosenstein has to deny the request, right? Giving Trump a reason to fire him, setting up a pretext to fire Rosenstein.
Right.
That makes sense.
Well, then magically later in the week, the DOJ sent the Comey memos to Congress. Rosenstein sent them, calling their bluff. Like, fine, here, have it. And the GOP could not wait to release them to the public, which is hilarious. Because why would the GOP want to do that? Because these memos completely corroborate everything that Comey has said. Well, it appears that they made a mistake and relied on a Fox News report that said the Comey memos were classified. And by showing them to the public, they figured they could prove that Comey leaked classified information when he sent the memos to his friend, Richmond, to give to the press. The hilarious part is that even though Fox said the memos were classified, they were not. And by releasing them, the GOP has proven that.
Yes, I love when fake news backfires.
It's so funny to me. And just that the fact that Trump gets basically his president's daily brief from Fox News is could be his downfall. So.
Yeah. I like that Rosenstein and the GOP were so blatantly not working in a coordinated effort on that. That was nice.
Beautiful.
It's like, okay, good, you are separate.
Yeah.
That's nice.
What a bunch of dicks.
So much dick.
Too many dicks on the Senate floor.
Yes.
Honestly, yeah.
If the dicks weren't dicks, it'd be another thing, but they're dicky dicks.
Yeah, and when you have
sometimes dicks fuck assholes. Sorry.
It's fine. Is that a reference?
That's a reference to
80s?
Team America, World Police.
Oh my God, yes. I watched that when I was like 12. Way too fucking young to
Yeah,
see
that's a
that
little young
movie.
for that vomit scene.
But that's what I was going to say. It's scarred in my brain when it's just like...
You know what?
The puppet sex probably wasn't the problem. It was the
that was
vomit
normal.
scene. Yeah.
I saw Pinocchio.
Is that some porn
It's
I'm unaware of? Are you
insinuated.
talking about the actual Disney film? Oh my God. We found out from the Washington Post that Trump was super pissed about the U.S. kicking out 60 Russian diplomats. You guys thought that was Trump's idea? It was not. Trump's aides told Trump at Mar-a-Lago that we would be ousting roughly the same number of Russians as our EU allies, right? And Trump said, we will match their numbers. We're not going to take the lead. We're going to match. And when the numbers were announced, Trump exploded, but sadly survived.
And then reassembled himself.
Reassembled like that lady
Dismay
in
of
Total
everyone.
Recall. Are you ready for a surprise? France and Germany were expelling 4 each, and we ended up kicking out 60. Trump seemed to believe that we would be kicking out 4, like we would equal them. And he was pissed that the media was saying we had by far the toughest stance on Russia because we equaled the entirety of Europe, not just like the average of what the Europeans were kicking out.
I love that pisses him off, even though he's tried to go on record saying we're the toughest on Russia. Yeah. And then when we're actually tough on Russia,
It's like, whoa.
Hang back, fellas.
yeah.
And he was so pissed. He was cursing, and he said his aides misled him, and I kind of hope they did. Lots of folks have misled Trump on purpose. Remember when his legal counsel guy let him believe that he couldn't fire the special counsel wrongly?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fucking hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, you can't do that. And then he found out he could, and then he never went and corrected the record. He's like, I'm just going to let him think that. Now we can get to Monday. We learned another white-collar criminal defender, probably a regular at the white-collar crime symposium.
Yeah, you think we'll get an invitation next year?
I don't know. I'd like to go.
Yeah.
You got to commit some white collar crime, right?
If we know any white-collar defenders
Yeah.
who could possibly...
I know some white people.
We got to wear strap-ons.
White-collar defenders sounds like a detergent commercial.
It does.
Anyway, this guy's name is Stephen Molo, and he has declined to work with Trump, so that's fun. And Nastya Rybka has been charged in Thailand and sentenced for 2 to 6 years. I saw that in an interview, but I can't find it reported anywhere in ink. Then it was reported that the journalist covering her story in Moscow mysteriously, fell out of a window or something?
Yeah, and then died from sustained injuries 3 days later.
Yeah, Jordan's going to go over that later in the episode. Hot notes.
Sad notes.
Yeah.
Also, 500 plus former Department of Justice officials going back to Kennedy, signed, not Teddy, JFK signed a petition to Congress to draft urging them to draft legislation to protect Mueller and Rosenstein from Trump. But Mitch McConnell, of course, blocked the Tillis-Graham-Coons-Booker bill on Tuesday.
That's hilarious.
I just love the name.
Like 5 times fast.
Despite McConnell's chicken shit move, the Senate committee has decided to take up the bill anyhow. We would learn later in the week that 7 more GOP members of Congress will back the bill, but even if they do force Mitch to take it up and pass it in the Senate, it will likely die in the House. But that puts House Republicans on record as refusing to protect special counsel, which I think will bolster the pattern of obstruction by that body.
Oh, for sure.
And fun fact, McConnell's reason the only reason he's actually saying to the press is that he's just positive Trump's not going to fire him. So I love that total projection and conjecture now is the basis of our legislative process. That's good to know.
Why not do it? Who cares?
Right, exactly.
Well, just let us.
Yep.
You fucking turtle.
He's such a fucking turtle.
He's a turtle, right? Jesse Egan thought of that.
Yeah.
Turtle.
I wish he was one of the endangered ones.
Oh, no.
Now I
This
feel bad
episode
for turtles.
sponsored by the endangered turtles.
World Wildlife Federation. We're sorry. We
And
apologize.
sensitivity training for turtles.
Yeah.
We're
He's a
have to go.
GMO turtle.
He's one of the turtles with one of those 6-pack things wrapped around his neck. Oh my God! Plastic in the ocean. Stop.
Seriously,
Yes.
we're Californians, so we see it.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Even if you like to get choked in the bedroom, doesn't mean
Doesn't mean the turtle does.
The turtle
Who
likes
are
to
we
get
to
choked.
know or decide? But if
Yeah.
the turtle does,
I wonder if there's
so
one
be it.
fish that's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
this is good.
I believe it. That's a good fish erotic
there's-
asphyxiation
Right, yeah.
impression.
there's some sort of protest in the ocean for the animals that were into autoerotic asphyxiation that no longer have the
You
means.
should be in the R-rated Finding Nemo.
Motherfucking Finding Nemo.
Yeah, tired of this motherfucking fish and this motherfucking sea.
Holy crap. 50 Shades of Nemo. We learned that Cohen's third mystery client is Sean Hannity. Da da da. But we don't know yet the implications of that. I kind of heard that and I was like, yeah, so.
Right.
Most reliable journalists with integrity would be suspended from a legitimate news outlet for that kind of association. But Fox News is not a legitimate news outlet, as we know. It's a bastard network.
It's a great reality show. If they would just admit that, they would be number one in my book. Yeah.
They actually went to the Supreme Court with saying we want to be able to lie, and the Supreme Court allowed it.
And
So-
we still call them news.
Yeah, but somehow that's still a thing for people. Like, oh,
Interesting.
the one who went to court so they could lie.
Didn't Canada ban them and some other countries ban Fox News as a broadcast journalism?
I
network?
would have to look it up. I hadn't.
Yeah,
heard
I
that,
think so, but yeah,
probably
for sure.
I would if I was Canada.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Or if you have a country where you have the BBC, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Channel 4 and BBC are great. BBC Canada. So yeah, we decided last week that we prefer the term bastard over illegitimate. So
Yeah, I like that bastard network. Is that what you said?
yeah,
I like it. Yeah.
Okay, Tom Tillis called out his GOP colleagues for their hypocrisy Monday in their criticism of his wanting to protect Mueller by writing this legislation. He says, quote, "Spare me. The same people that would criticize me for filing this bill would be absolutely angry if I wasn't pounding the table for this bill if we were dealing with Hillary Clinton. So spare me your righteous indignation."
Oh.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. And fuck you, I'm out.
And big news Monday was that Trump was putting the brakes on Russian sanctions announced by Nikki Haley the day before. She went on a news show and announced them on Sunday because I'm sure she just thought that that's what the president wanted. I'm sure they didn't have any discussions at all. Of course, Trump, being too big a coward to confront her himself, sent Larry Kudlow, who accused Haley of being out over the tips of her skis and confused.
What a weird
That's the
old
oldest
man
reference.
insult.
That's a phrase people are using a lot lately, out over the tips of one's skis.
Stalin's a hero. The only one in this town who can ski the K-12.
Yeah, I don't get the skis thing.
Me neither.
But maybe it would be cooler if it was out over the side of his snowboard. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, because I'm imagining just the wooden plank skis.
Yeah. It's like saying
underdeveloped.
Yeah.
like rolling on the edge of your rollerblades, man. Nerds. I love rollerblading. Please don't email me. But Nikki Haley fired back, quote, "With all due respect, I don't get confused."
Spicy meatball.
Yes, so she's spicy. And Kudlow crumpled like a smart car hit head on by a Buick and basically groveled with an apology. "Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. You're the best. I'm the dumbest. You're very good looking. I'm ugly." No, he just basically was super sorry. The insane part of this whole story is that in an interview on Maddow, the newly awarded Pulitzer Prize winner who broke this story said that someone at the White House called the Kremlin Sunday after Haley made the announcement and told them to ignore her. And I don't know, I misspoke. I don't know if they called the Kremlin or if the Kremlin called them and said, "What the fuck?" And then they said, "Oh, ignore her."
Right.
I don't know who called who. Maybe this was a back channel that's set up by Manafort. I'm not sure. But yeah, to call up Russia behind our backs, behind my back, and say, "Ignore the sanctions" comment.
That's
insane.
Yeah.
Last big news on Tuesday was that Trump is wavering on talking to Mueller after the Cohen raid. We predicted this last week, I think, or maybe the week before, so you can take some beans off it now, I guess. Done and done, right? We reported that Mueller will likely file his obstruction report sooner now, that he won't be interviewing Trump for it. And of course, it covers the 4 areas of obstruction, including the intent behind firing Comey, dangling pardons of Manafort and Gates. Dangling Pardons is another great band name. Pressuring Sessions not to recuse, and of course drafting the bullshit press release on Air Force One about the June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. So
you don't think Mueller will try to get him to interview? Or not interview, just testify, I guess?
He might, but I think that from what I understand from this report is that Mueller isn't going to subpoena him for the obstruction report he wants to file, and this isn't his final report. He can't make his final report until all the cards are played, right? This would be one of those urgent reports when there's a major update. There's like 3 criteria for filing an urgent report. One of them is like the press wants to know, or it would have an impact on the press. Another one is that it's it's a major thing. I can't remember what the third one was, but it meets the criteria. It meets at least one of those.
Yeah.
And so he's just going to file this. It could be a recommendation for impeachment. He's going to give it to Rosenstein, and it was supposed to come out in like June or July because they were waiting for Trump, right? Because Trump had to get ready and prepare and learn English,
learn how to read,
bone up on my English, get a little Rosetta Stone. I don't know. But now that's not going to happen. So I personally think now that this is going to come out sooner, and we'll talk about this later in our fantasy indictment.
Okay.
On Wednesday, Trump contradicted himself in a tweet by saying he did not fire Comey because of the phony Russia investigation. Did it take him a year to figure that out?
I mean, who knows what's going on in his head?
He is magnificently stupid.
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Also Wednesday, an email sent to the PA police leaked telling them, this is an email that basically was sent to the police department in Pennsylvania, telling them to prepare for a potential large spontaneous protest to follow Trump's firing of Mueller, and that the rallies would happen quickly and without much notice. Also on Wednesday, 7 GOP senators moved to support the Tillis bill, as we talked about earlier, to protect Mueller despite McConnell's denial to bring it to the floor. So I'm wondering if on that day, on Wednesday, we came close to another Mueller firing or Rosenstein firing.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that.
I bet we did.
It could be like that. It could be like every day they're not sure if it's going to be the day, and so it's just like pure chaos. Because you were in Washington the other day. I mean, does it feel like that? Does it feel like everybody's like, it could be the day any day?
Everyone was drunk.
Oh, well, that explains it. That explains it.
It's a bunch of nun burgers.
Yeah. But that's crazy that they're just thinking like they're not sure. They just don't know.
Nunberg, nice pull. Yeah. They were all railing coke.
Yeah.
I love Roger Stone.
Yeah. Where's a camera?
Put me on TV. I smell alcohol on your breath. No, you don't. Eric Schneiderman, this is so great. He is now trying to close the double jeopardy loophole for state crimes in New York. So let me explain this a little bit. Right now, the Constitution does not protect for double jeopardy. If you're tried in federal court for something, you can be tried for it again in state court. There's no protection for that. It seems like double jeopardy, but that's not what the Constitution says.
Right.
Because the Constitution is about maintaining state sovereignty, and the states should be able to do what they want, right? Mm-hmm. Well, a few states, I think 29 or 39, I can't remember exactly, have taken it a step further and said, we are going to say that that's double jeopardy, and we aren't going to prosecute anyone if they've been prosecuted for federal crimes. Mm-hmm. We're not going to do it in the state. Mm-hmm. Well, Eric Schneiderman filed a thing with the Congress, the legislature in New York saying, hey, you guys should pass a bill that closes that loophole so that I don't have to, if in case Trump pardons,
he'll have the green light to just pick the case right back up.
Exactly. So that way Mueller can go ahead and charge these guys with everything, and because I feel like he's holding back some charges, like on Manafort especially, and because
Manafort's language in that last statement, you're thinking the way that he explained, like in the case, how he wants to be pardoned, or not pardoned, but he wants to be.
Oh, how he wants the charges all dropped.
Exactly, future charges. He was really clear about. Yeah, so that was interesting.
Well, that's future indictments too, but also I think that there are current indictments that
haven't been revealed to the public?
No, that haven't been made. The charges haven't been made by Mueller because he's holding off in case Manafort gets pardoned so that Schneiderman can do it.
That wouldn't count as a future one?
Because of the... Right. No, this doesn't have anything to do with the future indictments. This is more of the current shit he's charging him with and how it's not everything he could charge him with. He's holding back some of the charges so that the state can try him for that in New York because New York has this double jeopardy protection.
Oh my gosh, there's so many levels.
But if they take away that double jeopardy protection, Mueller can charge him with everything he fucking wants to. And if Trump pardons him, they can charge him in the state.
Yeah.
But Trump would have to wait until the grand jury was impaneled in the state to pardon him in order to get that to happen. So they have not yet impaneled the grand jury in New York, hoping maybe this legislation will go through, closing that loophole.
That's cray.
If he goes through the state, can he still be sentenced to a federal prison sentence?
No, that would be a state crime, so I don't think you can go to federal prison for that.
But state prisons still suck, right? I mean, they can.
I imagine any prison sucks.
Yeah, but when you're a millionaire, I guess he might have a nice life even in prison, but at least he'll be in prison, right?
And I'm guessing on that. I'm not a lawyer, but that seems reasonable to me.
Or like if they could can they try them? Maybe Jordan Parker, if you're listening, you can answer this question. If you go from, getting pardoned on a federal level and they try you on the state level, can they then escalate the case or in an appeals court process to the federal level?
Yeah, not if you've been pardoned for that crime.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, he's got a lot. Hopefully they can just get him.
You're so cute. Like, they'll get him on something.
Yeah.
I think Mueller and Schneiderman are of the mind where they want to prosecute to the full extent of the law to ensure that these malefactors serve their time.
Word of the week.
Malefactors, prescient. Late but bastard.
Love.
Robocop.
Riboflavin.
Riboflavin?
Yeah. So weird. I love you. Late Wednesday, a bunch of Republicans in the House sent a letter to Christopher Wray Huber, that's a U.S. attorney, and Jeff Sessions requesting investigations be opened into Comey, Strzok, Page, Lynch, McCabe, and HRC, Hillary Clinton. That's the fact. Here's my thought. This is to muddy the waters in the real investigation happening right now that Comey opened into the FBI New York field office against the agents that blackmailed Comey into reopening the Hillary email investigation 11 days prior to the election by threatening to go public if he did not. Sessions is recused, so I'm not sure how the fuck he can be part of this or why the GOP sent him the letter in the first place. Because I have to remind you guys, Sessions isn't just recused from the Trump-Russia investigation. He's recused from anything that has to do with the election because he was called a surrogate at a time or two.
In my day.
I'm hoping there's proof of this conspiracy between the White House and House Republicans to discredit the DOJ and the Comey Six in the Cohen raid. And I think that's why Trump and Cohen wrote the letter saying we want to go through that shit first.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that would warrant a no-knock raid on Cohen more than just FEC violations in the form of payouts to adult entertainers.
I've heard too, yeah.
We said this a couple weeks ago or last week when this happened. I was like, why are they no-knock raiding a guy for payments to hush money payments?
Right.
That's
weird.
It's not why you no-knock raid somebody. Also, a story from Vox would come out Friday indicating that in January, Trump pressured Sessions to fire Strzok and Page. You guys didn't know this. This is brand new reporting. And when he refused, Trump asked the FBI director, Chris Wray, to find dirt on them. I don't know which came first, finding dirt on Wray. Actually, I think he told Christopher Wray to find dirt on Strzok and Page before he pressured Sessions to fire him. It might have happened in the same day, but I think it was that order. Anyway, according to two credible sources, Trump put that pressure on Sessions and Wray after he learned from Dowd that Page was a witness against him in the Mueller investigation
of course.
Into obstruction of justice. Until this report came out this week, you guys, until this minute, well, whenever you read the report, or maybe if you're hearing it for the first time, we did not know that Page is a potential witness against Trump.
Yeah.
But she is. And then the whole Strzok Page texts got released by the GOP in the House, and that's part of the conspiracy. And God, I hope it's all in the Cohen tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Probably not, but man, it'd be great.
We can make our own fantasy Cohen tapes, you know? Yeah. We could.
Fan fiction.
Yeah. No peeing, please.
No. Keep that out. Thursday, Cohen dropped his libel suits against BuzzFeed and Christopher Steele. So you guys remember back when the Fusion GPS testimony came out and the BuzzFeed printed the dossier, Cohen sued him because it said Cohen was in Prague in August chatting with Russians about setting up deniable cash payments to Russian trolls. Mm-hmm. And then they could hide out in Bulgaria. Remember, we talked about this. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are saying, well, Cohen is saying it's because he's too busy to deal with those lawsuits. But I think that the raid is going to show proof that he was in Prague. The McClatchy report says so.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people don't trust the McClatchy report. I do. There are 9 Pulitzers. But anyway, that he went to Prague and was conspiring with Russians to pay off these troll farms to interfere in the election. So, but in the other Cohen defense was, I don't have a stamp in my passport, so I wasn't there.
Right.
That's like saying I don't have an STD, so I couldn't have been in Amsterdam.
There are only 2 things I can't stand in this world. People who are intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch.
What?
Yeah, so I just, that's the dumbest defense ever. I don't have stamps. I've traveled in Europe, and when we would go from like Germany, I went from Germany to Prague, which is where is how they say Cohen got in. I had to ask, like chase people down to get a stamp, and they still wouldn't give me one. So that's not proof.
No, especially if there's any chance that you're there with any coordinated, efforts.
Yeah, so lies. Then midday Thursday, we found out that the IG, Inspector General, sent a criminal referral to the U.S. Attorney in Washington for my husband, Andrew McCabe. I'm not sure why they didn't send it to the DOJ, which is where you're supposed to send criminal referrals, but whatever. Remember Graham and Grassley, they sent the criminal referral for Christopher Steele to the Department of Justice, but probably because Rosenstein would be the one accepting it and he would think it was stupid. I want to get to the bottom of the New York field office McCabe-Comey story. I really do. I feel that if McCabe lied to the Inspector General, it was because he was either protecting the agency or he wasn't allowed to discuss the ongoing investigation, or he didn't lie. But I can't
there's no way to know right now.
Balance that with the IG report, because the IG report said he lacked candor. But it's interesting, and this kind of ties in with the Comey memos too, is that remember in the majority report, they wanted to make sure, one of their remedies for this was to make sure that the head officials of the FBI weren't just allowed to authorize leaks to the press.
Right.
But Comey has said in interviews this week that the director of the FBI and the deputy director of the FBI have the authority to decide what gets to the press. And this is an ongoing investigation, so I'm not sure Comey can tell us the whole story, and I really don't know, but I'm keeping him in the sexy justice calendar, so.
I stand by that as well.
Are you going to talk more about the Comey's opinions on the McCabe stuff later?
I'm not sure if they come up or not. I'm sorry.
Okay. Can I bring it up now?
Yeah, go for it.
I think it was you who told me this earlier, but that he actually came out confirming that McCabe did lie.
Well, no, his language is different. He didn't say McCabe lied. He said, if you lie, you should be fired.
Investigated, or yes, there should be some consequences.
Yeah, he didn't say McCabe lied. He said McCabe didn't tell me about his telling the press about the HRC emails stuff, but he has the authority to not tell me. I wish he would have told me. And then when asked if McCabe lied, he said he didn't say anything other than, look, all I can tell you is if you lie, to the FBI or to the IG, you need to be disciplined.
He didn't tip it one way or the other, really.
Got it. It was very careful language, and I would like to think that Comey is deliberate in his words. So
yeah, I trust Comey's choice of words too, like very carefully. I think he chooses them.
I'm keeping McCabe and Comey in the Sexy Justice calendar. I'll send you stickers if you want to put it over their faces if it turns out that they're lying bastards.
Yeah, we'll get like round stickers so you can just put them right on the face.
But I have this I just have a feeling about this.
To swallow for us.
And later in the week, we learned McCabe is filing suit against the Trump administration and the FBI and the IG for wrongful termination and defamation of character. So
he's sticking to it.
Yeah, so we'll see. And I just don't think these career legal minds and law enforcement guys, Republicans to boot, would do this. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Mueller probably knows.
I'm sure. No one knows everything.
Yeah.
Giuliani asked to join Trump's legal team to help negotiate the end of the Mueller investigation this week. Now, Giuliani is tight with Alpha Bank and is likely part of the Mueller investigation, and this is just speculation, so I don't think he'll be allowed to represent Trump. Also, you don't negotiate an end to an investigation.
This is past the settlement phase.
Yeah. The best you can do to wrap up an investigation is to step back and cooperate, which is what Dowd was advising the president to do, but, he pieced out, so I don't know.
Yeah, knowing Trump, he will for sure welcome him with open arms, even though he has ties to everything that's being investigated.
And I wonder if he'll get away with it. I mean, you think he'll be stopped, and I hope so too, because it makes total sense. But now I'm starting to wonder, like, well, what is Trump's plan? Does he actually know a loophole? Do you think he's just winging it?
He doesn't have a fucking plan.
I hope we're not underestimating him the way we did before. I mean, Putin's probably the one really calling the game plan.
He's bringing checkers to a chess fight.
You might be right. I hope you're right.
Yeah, and here's the chess fight. Finish him. Here's
no Roger Stone unturned.
Oh, good one. Half man, half mustache. Here's the thing about Giuliani. He knows what happened at the New York field office. Mm-hmm. In fact, he went on TV before Comey went to Congress with the reopening of the Hillary case and said, something big's coming. October surprise. Not going to tell you what it is. Ha ha. I'm fucking rad.
That's right.
But I'm talking to the FBI right now. And and then after Comey came out, he's like, see, I told you that's what it was. Like he
knew.
He did that.
Yeah.
He not only did he, and people were like, it's funny. They showed the Fox clips of him saying something big's happening, and all the Republicans and the pundits were like, oh, you can't know that he was talking about the Hillary Clinton thing. And then they follow it up with a clip of him saying, yeah, it was about that. And it was like, oh my God, you're so dumb.
Yeah. Like, are they now coming out and like saying, yeah, he said it, or are they still trying to defend him in this weird?
I don't know. They just shut up after that.
I don't watch Fox. I guess I should know thy neighbor.
Don't bother. I wouldn't. But here's the thing. I mean, I guess I don't know.
I'll see clips. I'll get the highlights.
I tried watching the Scientology Network the other day in that same vein.
I didn't know they had a network.
They do. I got pretty far, actually. I'm embarrassed to say how long I watched it.
No, I think that's actually really, really noble of you. I think it's best to get sources from everywhere, even the tinfoil sometimes.
But Ferris Bueller's Day Off was on.
Well,
good point.
Their whole network is filmed like a Lifetime reenactment scene. That's that's like the whole network
on a very special episode of Scientology.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I think Giuliani's under investigation because remember Comey said in one of his interviews, he's like, somebody said Comey started the investigation into Andrew McCabe. And that's not exactly true. Comey started the investigation into the leaks from the field office, the New York field office.
Yeah.
And McCabe was involved in that, but I don't know if he was a subject, target, witness, whatever.
Right.
But Giuliani clearly has shown himself to be part of that by his comments on Fox News before and after the Comey letter went to Congress, outing the reopening the Hillary email investigation. So I don't think that he can
legally
I don't think he can represent Trump and be under investigation for leaking shit to the, I don't know.
And let's hope law still, can be upheld in this sense, because Trump has clearly broken quite a few already, and you never know which ones he's going to get away with because it's just so unprecedented. It's just like, oh, well, of course he can't get away with this. And then we're like, wait, how did he get away with this?
We have a mini-sode this week about Trump, the president, not being above the law. So check that out if you're a patron. If you're not a patron, make it happen.
I will listen to myself.
The Department of Justice says that Manafort is being probed as a back channel to Russia.
No shit.
I said this 2 episodes ago. We reported on this, that we think Manafort faces superseding indictments for espionage, which is collusion, right? So,
right.
And that's what you were talking about earlier, Jaleesa, is the future indictments part, right? These aren't the indictments that he's holding back so that in case they're pardoned, he can bring them up in the state.
Exactly, they're different. Yeah,
this is where Manafort filed a suit saying, well, first of all, he was outside of his scope. Mueller's outside of his scope, but the judge said no, he wasn't, and showed him this, Rosenstein memo that said he was able
permission.
to, right? Then he said he shouldn't have been appointed in the first place, and if you find that to be true, I want to be released from all current indictments and future indictments.
Exactly.
So, I think the fact that the Justice Department is now saying that, and this is the Justice Department, this isn't Mueller's team, but Mueller's team is obviously part of it, saying that Manafort is being probed as a back channel to Russia. So, neat.
Yeah. I imagine this is like when you're trying to prosecute mob bosses. You know that they have all these other crimes. You know that they're for sure guilty. And how it's playing out is just operating off the assumption that there's still more they could get you on.
Yeah. And what's cool is when we start the Higher Loyalty, he talks about the kind of the parallels of the mafia and this administration.
Yeah.
He doesn't directly say it, but he's insinuating it.
Definitely.
Okay, I'm thinking we could do like a little meme of Narcos, like the Netflix cover picture, and then put like just narcissist or something like with Trump. I love mob stories, and I'm just like, I hate Trump, but man, this is entertaining.
Yeah, I know. Godfather. We also learned Thursday that Rosenstein informed Trump that he's not a target in the Cohen investigation. Again, target, subject, different. And Trump allies have told him that they're worried Cohen will flip. Alan Dershowitz has said they'll threaten Cohen with life in prison and try to get him to sing. And now the White House seems to be distancing itself from Cohen a little bit.
Oh, yeah. That's what they did with Flynn. Yeah.
And Papadop. Yeah. They're like, I didn't know him, coffee boy.
The pattern is real.
Can you imagine Trump trying to convince anyone that he just doesn't really know Cohen that well?
Oh, my gosh.
It's fucking hilarious.
Speaking of, have you seen that video of Rudy Giuliani and Trump from like decades ago?
When Rudy Giuliani's in drag?
Yes.
That's kind of
cute.
And
he puts his face in his...
Yes, as a comic, I appreciate that video in a fucked up way.
Why did they ever grow up and become dicks?
I don't know, man.
They probably were always dicks.
It's verging on transphobic, but...
Oh, you know what? Okay, I'm sorry. I only saw the thumbnail, so I don't want to assume that it's not transphobic, but like, what part did you like about it? Just the idea in general?
It's just a sketch. Yeah, it's just like...
comedy. It's just controversial.
It's a comedy sketch.
Yeah.
It's pointing out that Trump assaults women.
Yeah.
And making fun of it. And Trump's
it's like a very meta, self-aware sketch.
That's got to go in the newsletter or something,
It's
right?
hilarious.
I haven't seen that, but I got to watch.
Yeah, you need to see it.
But yeah, since they're assholes, it becomes potentially, like I said, transphobic.
Yeah, and gross.
Thursday night, the Comey Memos were released, and I'll go into that later. Sessions says he may have to resign if Trump fires Rosenstein. He made his position clear in a phone call to the White House attorney Don McGahn a week ago. I think that might have been what stopped Trump from firing Rosenstein last week. And by Friday, the number of DOJ officials that signed that petition that I was talking about, urging Congress to protect Rosenstein and Mueller, jumped from 500 to 800. It is now 800.
Wow.
And of course, MoveOn.org is organizing nationwide protests if such an event were to occur. So keep an eye out for that. You guys, that is this week's news. We'll be right back. Hey, Mueller junkies. I have to give some love to joysteaspoon.com this week for partnering with us and making us our own signature polonium tea from Russia with love. An amazing Earl Grey, which is perfect for making London fogs, which I asked for personally because that's one of my favorite drinks. You can get this exclusive blend for pledging at the $10 level. And in return, I'll ship you the tea for free, and you'll get access to the MSW Book Club, the mini-sodes including the entire archive, our weekly newsletter, access to our closed Facebook group, some laptop stickers, and the pure joy of knowing you're supporting a woman-owned business, women in podcasting, and Act Blue to flip it blue in November. We only have 50 of the polonium tea sets, and we're running out, so only the first 50 people who pledge at the $10 level will get this gift. So head over to MuellerSheWrote.com and click subscribe now. You'll be glad you did. All right, you guys, welcome back. It is time for Hot Notes.
Hot Notes.
And Jaleesa, we have more news about your boy Broidy.
Yeah, my bro Broidy. He's not really my bro, but I like alliterations. He has an update.
In case anyone was confused.
Yeah. I'm all about wordplay first and then accuracy second.
Right. Puns first, reality second.
There you go. Yes.
That wasn't a pun, but never mind.
No, but it's just fact, just life.
It's
So The Intercept, they're a news organization, they reported that right after Trump was sworn into office, Elliot Brody offered the Russian gas company Novatek a $26 million lobbying plan with the purpose of removing the company from the U.S. sanctions list. So, as we know about our bro Brody and the Brody bunch, he was deputy finance chair of the RNC until he resigned last week on account of paying off a Playboy model $1.6 million to keep quiet about their affair. But in 2017, when he laid out his sanctions proposal for Novatek, he was, quote, acting as a well-connected businessman and longtime Republican donor in a bid to help the Russian company avoid sanctions imposed by the Obama administration, end quote. So just a quick reminder, the 2014 sanctions we're referring to were implemented to punish Russia for annexing Crimea and supporting pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. A lot of you guys know that. So last year, Brody emailed a rough draft of his plan to attorney Andrei Baev. I don't know how to pronounce this. I think this is...
how do you spell it?
It's B. Okay, so Andre I got right, but then Baev is the last name. Baev?
Yeah. B-A-V-E?
B-A-E-V.
Oh, Baev.
Baev. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Baev.
I could be totally wrong. Yeah,
No, that sounds about right.
It sounds Russian.
He's a
Hooked on phonics worked for me.
I love it. It's like Russian phonics. So he was a then... we got to make that commercial.
Yeah.
So Andrei Baev, he was a then Moscow and London-based lawyer who represented major Russian energy companies and had already been in contact with Novatek about finding a way around the sanctions. So Brody suggested arranging meetings with top White House and congressional leaders, as well as creating articles and press favorable to Novatek, not to mention the full list of lobbying activities that were achieved by Brody's consultants behind closed doors. So even as he was orchestrating all of this, Brody insisted that his company, Fieldcrest Advisors LLC, did not perform lobbying services, but instead hired others to do it. He actually implied that those involved with the deal would sign a NDA shielding everyone's involvement from public scrutiny, and yet here we are somehow. So, the whole plan is outlined in a series of emails that are now obtained by The Intercept, and Brody and Baev won't even deny the emails are real. They just claim the deal was never, quote, consummated. And I always thought consummated was like a sexual term. Is
marriage.
Yeah,
right.
Like you consummate the relationship.
It's a handshake deal.
Interesting. Okay.
But Brody has some issues with consummation.
That's very true. So I guess
$1.6 million in issues plus a $250,000 legal fee.
It's a little minor issue there. So last month, Bloomberg News reported on the story stating that Brody, quote, offered last year to help a Moscow-based lawyer get Russian companies removed from a U.S. sanctions list, end quote. And Baev commented on the story saying, at the time, when I was a partner of Chadbourne & Park LLP, I had very preliminary discussions with Elliot Brody with regard to possible engagement of him as a strategic consultant with regard to a possible instruction by one of my corporate clients.
I think we should call Baev Beavis.
I like Baev because, like, if there's bromance, it's like it's Brody's Bay. Mm-hmm. But Beavis and Brody, like the Brady, I see a lot of references.
Beavis and Butthead.
Potential. Yeah, for sure.
Beavis and Brody.
Definitely. I love it. Very nice. So their whole
I need you to pay off a Playboy model.
It's like right before my time. I remember growing up to Beavis and Butthead when it was ending, and then there was also Ren and Stimpy that I like just barely missed. Do you guys remember?
Apparently, the creator of Ren and Stimpy is a fucking pervert that's getting charged for like sexual.
A lot,
doesn't it? It's the least surprising thing.
Yeah, I am Trump Julio.
I pee before my bunghole.
I need to pee before my bunghole.
I love you, AG. That's perfect.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So their whole idea was that the instruction was never materialized. The deal never truly happened. He also said, quote, nor did I or Chadbourne provide any services to any other individual or entity in connection with any attempt to remove any Russian company or any individual from the U.S. sanctions list.
So Jesus, run-on sentence
exactly.
much?
It's just a big nuh-uh. But I think they try to use these these words to confuse people.
They should use commas.
Yeah, it confuses me. I had to make my own commas in the quotes just to pause on my own.
Split up your
to breathe.
Split up your sentences, Beavis.
Seriously. So, total denial. Yeah.
Your sentence structure sucks.
Totally. So Bayev responded to Bloomberg News, and Brody ended up responding to The Intercept. And so Brody told them that Bayev did approach him about the proposal, but that he, Brody, decided not to go through with it for political reasons. So here's the full quote. Brody said, "At the time Mr. Bayev had approached us, he was then a managing partner of a U.S. major law firm, and the new administration had indicated an interest in normalizing relations with Russia and potentially easing sanctions. Subsequently, the geopolitical landscape changed, and I made the decision not to pursue it." It's very eloquently put for Brody, I'll admit, but here it's a very generous way of saying we got caught up, so I quit my shit. And it's just, plain and simple. Bayev was introduced to Brody in October 2016.
I need a pardon for my bunghole.
Right? So they met in 2016.
Taint team.
We got to get like a clip of you doing this impression and just like throw it in. I love it, which is basically this, but like forever we need to do this.
Just do a whole episode as Beavis.
Honestly, yeah.
No, that would be really, really terrible.
Yeah. I vote it. So they met in 2016 before Trump was elected. And as we know at that time, Brody was a top fundraiser for the Trump campaign, who would later become vice chairman of Trump's inaugural committee before transitioning to his most recent position as fucked. So Brody...
he wrote a joke. I love it.
I did a funny. Brody also proposed a 25-step plan to
Wait, is he fucked?
Brody is
Fucked. All right, thank you.
Yes. So basically, Brody proposed a 25-step plan to kill...
Oh, a 25-step plan. Very simple.
Very ambitious.
Yeah, nice director level. Good 20,000-foot view,
Yeah,
Brody.
right? If I went to an AA meeting and they're like, all right, we have a 25-step plan. You're like, I'm fucking out. I can't do this.
Can we cut that in half? Can we do like 12.5?
I can't do that plan. That's too many steps.
25. Oh my God.
So this plan was basically to kill or at least water down legislation.
Hey, I have a fucking plan. Step 1, don't fucking break the law. The end.
That's a very good plan. I think we had a quote that was perfect for that, a clip we used a while ago. Stop breaking the law, asshole. Yeah, that's step number 1. So this was actually from Senator McCain. He brought this legislation he was pushing through Congress to take the decision to lift sanctions out of Trump's hands and into the hands of Congress, which I guess technically
when
is
did
a step
he do
up.
that?
Congress has bigger hands.
October 2016 is when he was trying to do this.
Okay.
Trump couldn't hold it in his hands because it's just too small.
Yeah,
for sure. Yes. So, of course, this wasn't a good thing for the Brody bunch. And Brody created this document that included charts estimating expenses for the next 3 years. Pretty much the plan was to pay off a bunch of people to combat this legislation. So political experts, lobbyists, attorneys, they were all, quote, willing and able to work immediately on Brody, Bayev's, and Novitek's behalf.
Novitek sounds like something from Office Space.
Or like Star Trek.
You work at Inatrobe or Novitek?
So the plan included a list of issues for Congress that Brody mentioned would have to be overcome in order to implement the plan. And the list of issues included progress on agreements to resolve the situation in Ukraine, as well as Congress's request for information as to whether Russia did indeed hack the DNC and attempt to influence the U.S. presidential election. So basically, Brody said, quote, Congress would require agreement with Russia that Russia will not do so again. So it's like one of those, hey, Russia, did you actually do that? Well, cut it out. Quit your shit. Now let's work together. So that was their whole plan. Let's just at least get on the record that Russia did this and then just get them to say we're sorry and then we'll move on. They thought that would be the whole deal. They didn't think Mueller would, even be in the mix. But the series of emails clearly show that Novitek asked Bayev to discuss hiring Brody to help the company get off the sanctions list, and Novitek even specifically references Brody's proposal in the emails when Bayev received the letter marked confidential from Denis Solovev, the director of communications for Novitek. The letter said, quote, I am authorized by the management of Novitek, or did I write that wrong? Yeah, Novitek, to contact you and express our interest in your services related to removing Novitek from the U.S. sanctions list. We would like to discuss with you your proposal roadmap, end quote. So everybody was in on this. Everyone has these emails now. They see that Brody clearly showed a desire to avoid publicity by registering under, or he didn't want to register under the lobby Lobbying Disclosure Act, or FARA or FARA. He pretty much just, in an effort to avoid those disclosures, he tried to fly under the radar. And he reached out to this guy, Elliot Burke, a different Elliot, who was an attorney that reviewed Broidy's plan. And Burke basically said that, I'm sorry, I'll have to red flag this whole thing because you trying to avoid registering just is not going to fly. It's not going to work. And that's what the political conflict Broidy was referring to is. He said his friend said, don't do this. And so finally Broidy was like, all right, I won't do it. But I'm convinced that by this time on the, the timeline that he was already getting caught up. So I think that was just his way of trying to back out by looking like, I was just trying to follow the law and my friend said don't do it. So I stopped pursuing it.
What was Burke's first name?
Elliot.
Oh, okay. So it's not Bill Burke, the other lawyer that we talked
or
about.
Dr. Burke from Grey's Anatomy.
Right. Thank God it's not him.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically it. And Broidy says that because of all this, that, the info from Burke, he didn't follow through. And even though that's good thinking, it might be too late because we just found out yesterday from Al Jazeera that the Prosecutor General of Ukraine has launched an official investigation into claims surrounding the multi-million-dollar contract Broidy has with George Nader. So there you go. He's probably...
Nader.
Right. Yeah, it all comes back down to Mueller and who's telling him what, and
connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
La 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 la.
Follow the money.
Connect the dots. La 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 la. Connect the dots.
Why is Pee Wee Herman still allowed to do anything? Hasn't he been convicted as like a sex predator?
I mean, what are we gonna do?
He jerked off in a theater. I love
That's
that.
it?
Yeah.
Fucking
I know.
This liberal
and
media.
R-rated, like it was like an adult theater too.
Easy with the yelling. I didn't set the levels for this kind of anger.
Good point. But Jordan's very passionate about the right to masturbate in an adult theater. I also
it was like a George Michael thing, wasn't it? I think that's it. He didn't like fuck with kids or anything.
You're right. It's pretty messed up because Trump. Meanwhile, all this he's getting away with.
This is true. Yeah.
Crazy.
Why did that? When I read that news when I was a kid, it got imprinted into my brain as him being a child like.
Propaganda is a hell of a tool.
Probably because he had maybe a children's show.
Yeah, no, that's definitely.
Yeah, no. At the very end of the first Pee Wee Herman show, he got his true wish to fly as he zips through the air, courtesy of intentionally cheesy special effects. Let's see, the luckiest boy in the world.
Like, this is not what I'm looking for.
He walked into an adult movie theater. Nothing brings a star crashing to earth like the word sex scandal. Let's see, looking. Pro Pee Wee rallies have been held. That's weird. Pro Pee Wee.
Pro Pee Wee.
Pro Pee Wee.
I'm pro Pee Wee.
Yeah, basically he jerked off in adult theater. I'm pretty sure.
So Louis C.K. will come back. Basically,
I've seen
that's
people
what we
jerk
can take
off
from
in
that.
an AMC.
He didn't lock a woman in a room.
It's not fair. It's still risky, but it's not fair that he was so tarnished. But that's what
he's not though. Would they release Pee Wee's Big Adventure? Everybody
our generation,
loves him.
Like what Jordan was saying, like people are constantly saying, like,
"Oh well, your generation, no one cares what
you're right." My generation is, protesting gun laws and
just those hooligans.
I'm
kidding, you damn millennials.
Of course.
Anyway, so Broidy Bunch, that's interesting. Hey, Broidy Bunch, here's the story of an asshole rich guy who was sleeping with some very lovely girls. Oh. All of them were Playboy models, like their mothers. Probably the youngest one got pregnant. I don't know.
I like where this is going.
I'm just making shit up.
And of course, I'm all for Playboy models. In fact, I'm like, why didn't I do that? But like, I also feel like
you still got time, girl.
You're right.
You're young.
The night is young. I'll see you guys later. No, I think
never mind. I'm not going to talk about what I did for 2 days and how old I was when I did it, but
off the record, we'll get to it.
Girl, you can dance.
Thank you
for inspiration.
Thank you.
Anyway, thanks for your Broidy information.
And that was the start of Jaleesa's down.
Yeah, she gave up on podcasting and became a stripper.
If anyone wants to,
joke.
We're hiring apparently. So if you're interested in being on the podcast, no, we're not.
Need a new token. Sorry,
I'm all for sex work. If we could do it in America in a way that wasn't shitty, then that would be great.
Yes, this is a big thing, and I don't understand the battle between feminists and sex workers because that just makes no sense to me.
Right.
If you want to go out, some comedian, and I can't remember who it was, said if God wanted women to prostitute themselves, he would have given them free will and a vagina. And he did it tongue in cheek, right?
Yeah.
No pun intended. But why are feminists?
I think it's.
I mean, I get it a little bit because when I was younger and I would see women stripping or selling their bodies or doing half-naked pictures on cars or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's so terrible. What a bad message for women. But really, it's empowerment.
Yeah.
And it's choice.
I think in other countries way back in the day, I mean, I have a very fuzzy knowledge of history, but it sounds like the Puritans in the more recent years, like, you know, America being a country, is like become more conservative compared to other cultures.
Yeah, but why feminists?
Yeah. Well, Christianity
why super liberal feminists? I'm not talking about Christians. I'm talking about fucking feminists.
I think it's a religious and like a conservative social issue that usually stems from like the religion and like that culture of like conservatism, right?
Yeah, but these are intersectional feminists.
Yeah, there are women who are very socially conservative, but you wouldn't know it until they started talking about a certain issue.
No. I'm not talking about conservatives at all. I'm talking about liberal
feminists.
Oh, okay.
Against sex work because they're saying they're being exploited, etc.
I didn't realize that was a thing.
As if me neither but I have very good friends who are sex workers, and so I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah. They judge us because they're saying that we're being exploited, like we don't, like we're not in charge.
My brain almost couldn't even process what you were saying.
It's tough, right? I'm glad. Good.
Yeah, I was
Stay
like,
that way.
No. Okay. Yeah, liberals. That's weird.
Anyway, that's a completely different discussion for another day. Sex workers, big ups. Now we're going to head over to Jordan. You have an update on the sex coach. Speaking of sex workers.
Yes.
Nastya Rybka, yeah?
Yeah, so you mentioned that you had heard in an interview that she got sentenced. I couldn't find anything on that corroborating that right now that is written.
I can't find it either, but I heard...
Yeah.
I heard it.
I mean, it would make sense at the very least that or something else, but...
I'm stealing Jaleesa's wine. She's not even looking. Don't even look.
It's that time of the podcast to steal Jaleesa's wine. It's our new weekly segment.
See, you smoke weed. I don't. So I have to make up for
You're
it.
right. I'm this way with weed. I will steal my friend's weed. Like, I'll just like reach over and be like, hey.
Well, weed's for sharing.
I think so.
If you tried to steal, or like reach over and steal my wine, things could
get crazy.
Yeah, things could go wrong.
Well, good to know. Mm-hmm.
French fries, take them.
Oh,
now I'm hungry.
I get more territorial over the French fries. Oh yeah, I once punched my best friend in the face when she reached across and ate my cookie.
Do you know what I used to do to my ex-husband? I used to, when we would get fast food. This is back when I ate fast food. I don't do it anymore. But I would get the bag and I would hold onto the bag because he was driving. Because he insisted that he drove because I'm a female. I would reach in and I would grab fries out of the fry container and drop them into the bottom of the bag so that I could have the bag fries later. Like,
dude,
is that wrong?
No,
that
you know what I'm
so
thinking?
right. That's so
people
smart.
have been like emailing us saying they want to get us gifts, and I was thinking like it's so funny how
bag fries.
Our favorite things are weed, wine, and fries. Like that's kind of the trifecta
I'm
here.
not a fries person.
If I can throw pizza in there.
Cheese. If I could just get some cheese, so maybe some dill Havarti, nice room temperature brie.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great.
I'm older though,
sure.
so
No, I'm down for that.
but I understand the za. You know.
Oh, I fucking love the za.
And what was the other food? Fries. Okay,
Yes.
I get it. They're delicious
for sure.
Fries on za.
Guys.
Dude, what? They have what?
Fries on za.
I can't even. Please, let's get into the sex.
I can't even
because I'm carb free over here. Okay.
Yeah.
Except for wine.
Yeah, this is a good time for everyone to take a break and go get some fries and return for this nice.
And we're back.
Yeah. Okay, so Nastya Rybka, as we know, she is the Russian sex worker who is currently being held against her will. Obviously, that's usually how being in jail works.
Oh yeah.
Here's
a Family Guy episode where they don't want to get out, so they're trying to like do things to stay in.
Yeah, that's Manafort's plight. But so she's in Thailand still. On Monday, not today, on Monday, news came out that there's a Russian journalist named Maxim Borodin who died. So this guy was found badly injured by neighbors in his, I'm going to really try to not fuck his name up.
Yeah,
it's a Russian city. It's Yekaterinburg.
Can I see it? Mm-hmm. I want to try it. Where's that at?
Right at the top.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that's a weird one.
Right? It doesn't seem very Russian.
Yekaterinburg.
Yeah.
That seems more Polish.
Yeah, exactly. Or German or something.
Yeah. Maybe his father's side or something.
Well, it is a place.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good old Wyberg.
Yeah, Wyberg. That sounds better. So he was found in this city in Russia, and he was taken to the hospital where he later died. Local officials say that there was no suicide note found, but the incident was unlikely to be of a criminal nature. What's interesting about this guy is he was a Russian investigative journalist who was pursuing leads that derived from Nastya Rybka's videos that Navalny, Putin's one opponent, essentially, or viable opponent, was releasing to the public that was unveiling corruption in Russia on the yacht, as we've talked about. I forget what episode it was in. About it in. So he mysteriously turns up dead. However, a friend of Borodin's said that he had actually called him the day before, saying that his flat was surrounded by security guards and there was a guy with a gun on his balcony.
Wow.
And they were all around the staircases that were in his flat. And then he calls him later and says, "Oh, I guess they were just doing a drill." But then the next day, he winds up mysteriously falling to his death. Russian authorities deemed that there was no foul play involved, obviously. They said that the door was locked from the inside, which is proof that he did it himself. But he has a fucking balcony.
Because murderers don't know how to lock doors.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they couldn't pay off the
I'm going to go in and leave the door open because I'm trying to set this up to look like a suicide. Dumbs.
Exactly. And so this guy, on top of investigating this Navalny story that broke, he's also recently been investigating the case of hundreds of Russian mercenaries that actually died in Syria fighting with Assad. And so they were known, there's this group called the Wagner Group, which provides Russian mercenary soldiers. And they reportedly were killed in Syria on February 7th in a confrontation with U.S. forces, actually. Wow. It was a couple hundred of them. It was in a province, Dal Azur, I think is how you say it.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Close enough, yeah.
And so this guy was investigating this. And he's investigating the Navalny thing, and then he just suddenly shows up dead on Monday. Really hard to not think that it was foul play, because Russia is ranked 83rd out of 100 countries for press freedom by Freedom House. They have a history of assassinating their journalists.
Like the least press freedom, right? Like 83 is bad.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Number one would be the most press freedom. I wonder who number one is.
That is a good question.
Not us these days.
North Korea?
Definitely not.
Did I hear the wrong list?
Well, 100. You were right in the extremity of it.
Okay.
But they would be 100.
Yeah, no, it's probably like some European, Switzerland, Sweden.
Yes.
Situation.
Oh, yeah, Switzerland as
Canada.
the number one peaceful. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Could they battle for the number one, like, best
That's the one time they fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Nope, we're neutral.
So yeah, Russia has a huge history of assassinating their journalists. Sorry, I know I keep getting loud. Sorry, you can cut that out also.
No problem.
So
108.
So for example, one of Russia's best known investigative reporters, you might recognize her name as Anna Politkovskaya. She was shot dead in her elevator in her flat in 2006. She exposed Russian human rights abuses in Chechnya. So that happened to her. 2 years later, journalist Mikhail Beketov was left brain damage. He had highlighted corruption and fought against the planned destruction of the Khimki forest near Moscow to make way for a road.
The Kinky Forest?
I've been there.
Khimki.
I live there, yo. No. Who was the one who was shot in the head out front of the Kremlin? Nunkov?
I remember the person.
Yeah,
I
have a. What year was this? In like 2015?
It was recently. Yeah.
I have a 2010 death. I have another 2010 death.
I have
a stabbed in the neck. I have a severely injured in an assault in Moscow. I have, let's see. There's a lot of lists.
I was telling my girlfriend about this when I was reading a similar article, and she was like, "Are you guys sure you want to keep doing this podcast?" And I'm like, "Well, there's a lot of people that I think would be ahead of us. I feel like Putin goes for the ones that are the real investigative journalists, and then there's so many like sources in between. We just read what we find. I mean, we're not out in the field, but these people, these freaking heroes, are being murdered, and it is insane. It is pretty.
Yeah, there's just such a strong history of people doing investigative journalism work in Russia, doing anti-corruption work usually, and then they just mysteriously die. And there are multiple people that have died from getting pushed out of their flats. It's never confirmed, of course, because it happens in Russia, and they're not going to release that, obviously. There's people that get poisoned. There's people that get stabbed. There's people that get There was one guy that got tortured. The lawyer, actually, of Magnitsky, he was extremely tortured in prison.
Yeah.
And there's another really good article that was published on CNN.
They're like real life villains, you know? It's just happening all the time for them.
It's mob. It's just mafia stuff.
And our president loves this guy.
It's Nemtsov, Boris Nemtsov.
Got it.
Shot in the head.
He was a Russian politician who opposed Vladimir Putin. Wait, that's a politician, not a. But Nemtsov sounds familiar to me.
Yeah. We've talked about a few, and that's the crazy thing is that we can't even keep up with how many there are. It's like, this is insane. And that's just the ones that we hear about, you know, the ones that are really making waves.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Jordan.
Oh, no worries. There's just another article that gets published after this story breaks, and it's essentially looking at Russia's history of murdering journalists, or they don't assert that it is for sure that they murdered them, but that it is unsolved, and they've essentially just closed the case preemptively and said there was no foul play, and one has to wonder because it's always journalists that are uncovering corruption.
Yeah, and Russia usually blames somebody else. England, United States, Hillary Clinton,
Which
whatever.
is why when they blame us for the election, I'm like, okay, I know that we're at a fault, but this is what Putin does. It's not just him speaking the truth, like, yeah, America, look in the mirror. It's like him using his tactics of propaganda.
Well, he uses whataboutism, which is the tool that most Trump supporters use, and they learned it from Russia. I hate to tell you, I hate to tell you guys that, but you have been taught by Russians how to act.
Yeah, and this death of Borodin, it really mirrors a case that happened 10 years ago with this guy named Ivan Savronov, who was a military correspondent for the Kommersant newspaper. He fell out of a window on his fifth-story apartment and died. They ruled it as a suicide, but all of his friends and colleagues denied he was ever depressed or had any reason to take his own life. He was looking into corruption and hazing in the Russian army.
There was no suicide note. That's the equivalent of I didn't have a stamp in my passport.
Totally.
So I wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly. He was looking into the hazing in the Russian army, as well as Russian weapons exports, which, as we know, they've been giving weapons to Syria and Iran for a really long time. And sometimes what he was discovering would prompt legal action by the state. 2 weeks prior to this guy's death, he went to an arms expo in the UAE to investigate supplies of Su-39 jet fighters to Syria and S-300 service-to-air missiles to Iran.
Wow.
Upon return, reporters told his editors that he was able to confirm that Russia signed a deal with Syria to supply Panzer S-1 anti-aircraft missiles, MiG-29 fighters, and Iskander-E ballistic missiles.
MiGs. MiGs are MiGs.
Oops, sorry.
See Top Gun?
Nope, I did not.
God damn it.
Did I say MiG?
We gotta do this.
You said MiG.
Yeah.
My bad.
Well, she wrote watches like movies. We gotta do something like that.
You got a MiG, 2:00.
Yeah.
Come on, nice man.
Right over my head.
Yeah, I have seen that movie actually. That just
Oh my
didn't
God,
ring a
you
bell.
I've
I know,
never,
so sorry.
yeah. I know what it's about, but that's
the super like gay volleyball scene.
There's a gay volleyball scene in Top Gun?
Well, it's
pretty hot.
It's homoerotic.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, let me know the timestamp.
It's the volleyball scene. I was going to tell you the timestamp. Just watch the
YouTube
movie.
knows, yeah.
Yeah, there's
watch
either
the
planes
whole
or volleyball in that whole movie.
You know, like, do I have to watch the entire
ADD,
thing?
come on.
Can we do a mini-sode about it and be gone? Be done with it?
A Mueller minute.
Yeah. So this guy was recalling to his friends that people were telling him that if the things that he unleashed led to international scandals, the FSB will certainly initiate a criminal investigation into this dissemination of state secrets and will take it to the end, quote unquote. And then last year, lawyer Nikolai Gorakov fell from the fourth floor balcony of his Moscow apartment.
Oh, a fourth floor. Clearly not the Russians.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wait.
They're fifth floor dudes.
I have an idea. Let's just buy all these journalists flats on the bottom floor. And then when they fall over... I'm sorry, that's a bad joke.
Oh, no, that's funny.
That's a good recommendation. Russian journalists, if you're listening, live on the first floor.
Please, just do it for justice.
And
do it
don't
for
drink
us.
tea.
Yeah, don't drink tea. Unless it's from... Mueller, she wrote.
But then one girl got stabbed in the neck in the radio station that she worked at.
Oh my
So
goodness!
it's just like they're just gonna get you.
They know no boundaries.
Well, see, so gun laws won't work.
Yeah,
sorry.
But yeah, so this guy Nikolai Gorakov, he's the one that I referenced before. He was the Russian attorney, or a Russian attorney for Sergei Magnitsky, who, as we know, died in a Russian prison in 2009. Magnitsky's death is what led to the Magnitsky Act in 2012, which...
Listen to episode 2?
a lot of them,
early.
but started at 2.
And take note of how our sound has improved. And
yes, it has.
Have to thank our patrons
Seriously.
for that.
Yeah, most definitely. And so, yeah, that guy, once the Magnitsky Act gets passed, it becomes, Veselnitskaya, Putin, the Lot's sole mission, essentially, to get that overturned because it's punishing Russians that were seen as responsible for the corruption leading to this guy's death, for investigating this, supporting it, not supporting it, but, litigating against it. And basically, Russia kills their reporters constantly. And if this guy was not killed by some sort of foul play, that would be very surprising.
And I'm sure it all started with hashtag fake news.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of keep in mind that that's
what are their
where
motives?
it could lead.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Jordan.
Yes, thank you. That was really wonderful. All right, I'm going to go into my hot note now. We're going to talk about the Comey Memos, you guys. We'll have a link to them, the actual memos, in our weekly newsletter. There's a lot of redacted stuff in there, but it's good to read. Head over to MuellerSheWrote.com and subscribe so you can receive those newsletters every Wednesday. Jordan puts them together. They're fantastic. I have to say, it's spectacular. So, you're welcome. All right, so for almost a week, House Republicans like Nunes and Gowdy and Gates were demanding the release of Comey's memos, like little bitches. We want the memos. These are the memos that Comey drafted contemporaneously after multiple meetings with Trump, where Trump said weird things to him that he felt he needed to document because he thought Trump would lie about them later. That immediately says a lot about this man. So House Republicans demanded the memos under threat of subpoena. Right? They said, we will subpoena you if you don't send us these memos to Rosenstein, the Department of Justice. And I think they did that because they believed Rosenstein would refuse to release the memos, as they are part of an ongoing investigation into obstruction of justice. But Rosenstein called their bluff. As we reported earlier, he sent them over. He's like, here you go. Fine, motherfuckers. Eat it. And of course, as soon as the House got the memos, they were leaked to reporters within hours, because that's what Congress does.
Gossipy.
They're little bitches, and they complain about leaks. It's weird. There are 7 memos in all, totaling 15 pages, and all they do is corroborate Comey's testimony, along with the testimony of the Comey 6, the 6 individuals that Comey told about his conversations with the president, and the handwritten notes we recently got a hold of from Maddow, thanks to Rachel for that they were deemed unclassified by the Department of Justice that Dana Bente wrote after phone conversations with Comey. And there's also handwritten notes from Priebus about conversations that he had. So all these notes are just corroborating everything. The memos, they also back up the assertions Comey made in his book, A Higher Loyalty, which we'll begin reviewing this week for our patrons, and all the things Comey has said in multiple interviews and his testimony to Congress. So Jamie Raskin, a House member from Maryland, said, quote, "This is a tactic that has backfired. From what I've seen of the Comey memos, they bear out completely the authenticity of his reports and his own credibility." So, eat shit. So the memos document conversations Comey had with the president, including how the president asked for Comey to let go of the Flynn investigation and for Comey to publicly clear him in the Russia investigation. Like, that was his big thing. Like, I need you to go out and tell the public I'm awesome.
Exactly.
There's a passage that says at one point, Priebus asked Comey if Flynn was under FISA investigation. The answer is redacted, but it's longer than no.
Yeah.
And in fact, some people have put out, like, photoshopped versions of what different things would look like in the redacted,
like actual
like
ones,
how
not
much
fake ones,
like how much space it would take up, not like actual memos,
character, predicting what it could say.
Yes. Saying here's how big the typeface is and here's everything, and the only answer that fits is yes.
Like basically, or YES, like how many characters? 3?
Quote, yes, unquote.
Oh. Or what about like, no.
Quote, NOO, unquote. No.
Or no question mark?
So,
Question mark.
So everyone's assuming it's yes, and that Flynn was under FISA surveillance. We didn't know that. That actually came out because the Republicans were so hot shit to get this shit released. And that's
idiots.
We didn't know about that. That's one of the things that came out in these memos that we didn't already know. A lot of the memo stuff we knew already from Comey's testimony and from journalism and stuff.
Common sense.
And the memos also go over the loyalty asks from the president. Most interestingly, the memos document the obsession that Trump had with the Salacious P stuff, right?
Yeah.
Trump had repeatedly brought this up to Comey because he said it was upsetting Melania, and if she even believed it 1%, that was too much. Democrats in the House say that the memos prove that Comey isn't just some disgruntled employee making up stories, which is what Trump's assertion is.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Speier tweeted, quote, "Thanks to the House GOP for urging the release of the Comey memos. Oddly, you've proved Comey's consistency and bolstered arguments for obstruction of justice and collusion. Perhaps finish the job and call for the release of Trump's tax returns."
Yes.
Trump and the Republicans are trying to say that since the memos don't mention collusion, that means there wasn't any.
Okay.
Trump is also harping on the fact that Comey leaked these memos to the press and that they're classified. But the director and deputy director of the FBI, first of all, have full authority to speak to the press. McCabe also falls in this category, as I mentioned earlier, who Trump also, he worked very hard to discredit him as a witness in the obstruction case against him.
Right.
But even though Trump is all pissy about Comey leaking the memos and had McCabe...
Pissy about Trump. That's beautiful.
Thank you. And he had McCabe investigated for speaking to the press. It's documented in the memos that Trump actually encouraged leaking, specifically when asking Comey to leak to the press that he wasn't under investigation. He said, quote, Comey, and this is Comey's memo, quote, "I reminded him that I had told him we were not investigating him and that I told him the congressional leadership the same thing. He said it would be great if that could get out, and several times asked me to find a way to get that out. He talked about the guy he read about in the Washington Post today. I think he meant Sergei Milyan, and said he didn't know him at all. He said that if there was some satellite, meaning some associate of Trump or Trump's campaign, that did something, it would be good to find that out, but that he hadn't done anything and hoped I would find a way to get it out that we weren't investigating him," unquote. So Trump was encouraging Comey to leak. Just putting that out there. Mm-hmm. Comey said any announcement like that would have to go through the acting attorney general, who I believe at the time was Dana Bente.
Mm-hmm.
The assumption by Trump that Comey leaked classified documents rests solely on a Fox News report that states that Comey sent 4 memos to the press. And we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
That report was incorrect, and none of the information Comey gave to the press was classified.
Thank you, Fox News. I didn't know that this was their plan all along.
Exactly. It's so
Get him from the inside.
Another thing we learned from the memos is that the White House actually had serious reservations about Flynn, despite Trump publicly defending him. After a January 27th meeting, Comey wrote this in his memos, quote, "He then went on to explain that he has serious reservations about Mike Flynn's judgment and illustrated with a story from that day in which the president apparently discovered during his toast to Theresa May that redacted had called 4 days ago. Apparently, during the toast, the president said that Prime Minister May had been the first to call him after his inauguration, and Flynn interrupted to say that blank had called him first. Redacted. That name is redacted. Mm-hmm. It was then that the president learned of Redacted's call, and he confronted Flynn about it. Flynn said the return call was scheduled for Saturday, which prompted a heated reply from the president that 6 days was not an appropriate period of time to return a call from the blank of a country like blank.
It's like a hip-hop explicit lyrics. Yeah.
This isn't blank we're talking about, he said. Trump said if he called blank and didn't get a return call for 6 days, he'd be very upset. The president pointed at his head and said, "This guy has serious judgment issues." All right, so let's look at these blanks. Let me fill him in as I think it went.
Yeah.
Apparently, during the toast, the president said that Prime Minister May had been the first to call him after his inauguration, and Flynn interrupted to say that Putin actually called him first. It was then that the president learned of the Putin call, and he confronted Flynn about it. Flynn said the return call was scheduled for Saturday, which prompted a heated reply from the president saying that 6 days was not an appropriate period of time to return a call from the president of a country like Russia. This isn't Monaco we're talking about, he said. Trump said that if he called Putin and didn't get a return call for 6 days, he'd be very upset. There you go. So that's what I think.
Thank you. That was so much easier.
In the redacted bits. Finally,
I really don't know what other country would even go in those blanks.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm guessing. Yeah, but I'm probably
educated guess.
Yeah, probably right. It's fine. Finally, Comey's memos reveal how confusing it is to talk to Trump. Quote, the conversation, which was pleasant at all times, was chaotic, with topics touched, left, then returned to later, making it very difficult to recount in a linear fashion. Normally, I can recall all of the pieces of a conversation and the order of a discussion with high confidence. Here, given the nature of it, there is a distinct possibility that while I have the substance right, the order was slightly different. It really was a conversation as jigsaw puzzle, in a way, with pieces picked up, then discarded, then returned to, unquote. And I'm surprised Trump hasn't latched onto that, saying, see, Lion James Comey memos are fake because I don't make any sense.
Yeah. Right. I mean, maybe it's tomorrow. We'll find out if he tweets that. We'll see if he called it.
Right? Like, it just seems like that would be the thing to grab onto.
Yeah.
So you're like, look, I'm so nonlinear and idiotic that he can't.
He's not making. Yeah, it's
in
not
court,
coherent.
I'm sure they will.
You're probably right. Yeah, that would make sense.
Well, I hope there's court. Anyway, guys, sit tight. We'll be right back. Hello, this is AG from Mueller, She Wrote. I would take a minute here to thank all of our subscribers, but they can't hear me right now because they don't have to listen to this shit. Our patrons are truly blessed, you guys. They get access to all of our minisodes, including the entire archive. They get our weekly newsletter that Jordan creates and that includes my research notes. And you'll become a member of the MSW Book Club. This week, we start A Higher Loyalty by James Comey. And the first 50 people that pledge $10 will get a 2-ounce bag of our limited edition From Russia with Love loose leaf Earl Grey polonium tea, blended exclusively for Mueller, She Wrote by joysteaspoon.com, a woman-owned, responsibly sourced tea company that believes in the soul of the tea. There's only 50 of these, so head over to MuellerSheWrote.com and click subscribe now. And thank you for listening. All right, welcome back. Are you guys ready for the Fantasy Indictment League?
Yes.
All right, guys. I think that once Mueller prepares this update report for Congress on obstruction of justice, the indictments will start dropping. That's what I think. And we've talked about this several times, and I just slapped my knee, sorry.
It's a knee slapper.
Yeah. We've talked about this, what we think is going to be the timing of everything. He could indict the Russians before then, the Russians that hacked the DNC in Podesta, and he might. But now that the president isn't going to talk to Mueller, the report that would have been ready in June, maybe July, could likely be sent to Rosenstein this month or in May.
That'd be crazy.
So I'd start looking for indictments next month in what I would like to call Mueller May I.
Oh, Cinco de... No, it's not going to work. Cinco de Mueller?
Mueller Mayday. Mueller Mayday. I don't know.
That. Yeah.
It's the
but
Mueller
yours was
month of
better.
May.
Yours was better, yes.
Anyway, so that's what I think is going to happen. You're going to see once he submits this report, it might be... it's a report on the 4 obstructions of justice, right? And it might be, or what did we call it? A cafefe of obstruction?
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
And it might be a recommendation to impeach, but he's going to give it to Rosenstein. Rosenstein has to give it to the 4 guys, lady, 3 guys and a lady. And then he'll decide whether to release it to larger Congress or whatever. But at that point, once he files that, I think he will then start dropping these indictments.
Drop it like the base.
Particularly, at least the Russian indictments on the hack into the RNC or the DNC and the RNC and the Podesta emails and Stone, WikiLeaks, and Assange. And I think he might do the superseding Manafort indictments on collusion or
Guccifer too. He's one of the Russians.
He's not going to flip. Yeah.
And conspiracy. So, which really, honestly, the collusion charge would be espionage.
True. So, and I'll volunteer if he wants me to testify. I'll be like, this is all fucked up.
You'd be like,
I've seen it all.
You know what? Here's what I say. They'd be glad to hear from you. I'm
sure.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know. What do you guys have? Anyone you want to add to the indictment team?
There's people we're probably forgetting because it's just like a whole Sims universe of people involved here. But like, I think we named the major people, and those are the ones that I imagine would come after that report. So yeah, those I think we got.
Brody's already on there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we named pretty much everyone who was in the Minority Report.
Okay.
And everyone we've done a story on.
I mean,
pretty much
you know, like the Simpsons like picture when all the characters are in there. I think the Russian investigation needs like a picture of everyone. Like
that's your generation. My generation would be the Muppets Take Manhattan at the wedding between Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy, where they have every single Muppet
beautiful
in the church.
We need that.
Brings
for
a
the
tear to
Mueller
my eye,
investigation. Yes.
I imagine there are more Trump campaign aides too that we don't know the names of that knew things.
Absolutely. There's tons of people we just can't even imagine that are on this. And
every week I could freeform crop and just add them to the cluster, and then when it's all done, we'll just see how many.
Well, the ones that we know about. There's for every one we know about, there's probably two that we don't.
Totally right.
So if we have 80 or 90 people, there could be close to 200.
I'm gonna make
people
this.
we don't know about that are not just going to be indicted, but could be subjects, targets, or witnesses.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys ready for sabotage?
Oh yeah.
All right, so this morning, Trump tweeted something stupid. I know you're all shocked. He said, quote, "The New York Times and third-rate reporter named Maggie Haberman, known as a crooked H flunky, who I don't speak to and have nothing to do with, are going out of their way to destroy Michael Cohen and his relationship with me in the hopes that he will, quote, flip." Our president, ladies and gentlemen, spelling names wrong. He spelled Maggie Haberman's name wrong. Admitting he's done shit people can flip on him for, and witness tampering. 3 cheers for stable genius. Yay!
Yeah, hip hip treason. I don't know.
Hip hip treason. That's great. Anyway, so that's my sabotage. It's not going to change my fantasy indictment team at all.
Yeah, that is amazing though that it's another self-incriminating tweet.
Yeah.
Although I'm wondering now if Maggie Haberman is a witness.
Oh,
he spelled her name wrong.
He
corrected
no
it,
respect.
but he corrected it, but then left the shit in about Cohen flipping.
Yeah,
it's just so.
Guess nobody's
smart.
perfect.
So very smart. All right, you guys, let's get to questions. How about that?
Yes.
At KRRMCC asked, quote, "Rundowns on pardons? What's currently allowed? Who's currently eligible? Predictions and what's this new legislation?" I think we covered this. The whole Schneiderman trying to close the loophole in New York so that you can be tried in state for a crime that you've been tried for.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think it's the top dogs that would get pardoned, not the smaller indicted people.
No, yeah, and it was Manafort and Gates, maybe Flynn,
maybe Cohen, but even that wouldn't help because I think he has state charges already.
Of course, Scooter Libby, because that's totally relevant.
Yeah.
Jesus
just
Christ.
a jab at Comey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Carmel Simmons asked, quote, "Why did Cohen drop his defamation suits?" And I think we covered this too.
Yeah.
Because there is proof that he was in Prague. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Somebody stamped his shit.
Proof of Prague.
Yeah. Prague proof. Kimberly Phillips at Hokey Horn, one of our lawyer friends, says, "Hey, it's your law buddy with a couple questions. Would love your opinion on this instead of impeachment. Let's say Trump is indicted, tried, found guilty, and sentenced to more than a year in prison. Because he is sentenced to more than a year on a felony, in most states he's considered incapacitated for legal purposes. Dems then file a writ to SCOTUS to remove him from office under the 25th Amendment. Also, another question is with the Department of Justice turning over Comey's memos. I think the obstruction part of the investigation is near end and a report to Rod Rosenstein is imminent. Do you?" Yes, and yes. So you would have to indict a sitting president, however, and I'm not sure Mueller would do that because DOJ rules currently
don't clearly state that that's his
prevent him from doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that he would indict him. I think we're going to see the obstruction and recommendation for impeachment report go to Congress, go to Rosenstein, who has to take it to Congress, at least the 4 guys, with 3 and a lady, and then we'll see indictments drop on everyone else, superseding indictments on Manafort, conspiracy and espionage indictments. But I don't know that he's going to indict Trump directly.
Right.
And Comey has actually said he doesn't want Trump to be impeached.
He wants him to suffer? What?
No, he is saying he wants the voters to kick him the fuck out.
Yeah, just let them see him as an unfit leader.
Right.
Yeah, like take a responsibility for our own power and our
He
own
wants
actions.
Americans to do it.
Yeah, which is great, but then again, if Trump isn't gone, then how are we going to stop the Russians from hacking our vote anyways?
That's a big thing.
Comey,
yeah, and if he's actually criminally liable for his actions.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
But I do appreciate that thought, Comey.
Yeah, thanks for making us do it.
Giving us good vibes.
Honestly, the longer this goes on, the more I think it's going to happen like that because of just the length of the investigation. And then he might be indicted after, but like with Nixon, right? He actually gets
pardoned.
elected into a... Yeah, he starts...
I don't think Trump will be elected into a second term, though.
I don't think so either. I think he's not going to be elected. No, I don't think he'll be elected.
It was forever ago in politics and headlines, but like a few months ago, didn't he have like high chances of as an
It's
incumbent?
2 years from now.
You're right. I mean, anything can happen between now and dinner.
And I don't know what... That was a Rasmussen poll, I think you're quoting, 51%.
Probably.
And that's a very conservative
That
poll.
was concerning me, yeah, so I'm glad that's not the case.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think he'll...
But I think what I'm saying though is I don't think that it will come to a conclusion before the election happens, and then I just think he's not going to get elected.
The 2020? Mm-hmm. You don't think he will? His shit will come to a conclusion. Other people's shit will. Yeah, that's what I think.
That makes sense, and so be it. If he's out, then that's fine by me.
All right, Amanda Flieger wants to know what we say to the opposition in a debate. So here's her situation. Her family members say that the investigation is a hoax. She says, I have some Fox-watching right-winged family members who have a hard time listening to the truth. Also, a lot of these folks are big on using, as AG calls it, whataboutisms. Very frustrating when I want to have an actual dialogue with them. Man, I have given up trying to... Anyone who still supports Trump, to me, clearly is beyond redemption. Mm-hmm. And I have given up trying to bring them over to the side.
I know it's silly because I totally agree with you with the frustration that this is like impossible to change their mind. But I've realized that like the one thing that like all groups agree on is like death. So it's funny because like we don't want to start with fear, but like if we somehow like start from like the only thing that we can say is like inevitable and be like, hey, well, we don't want to die, right? So like let's try to figure out like kind of work backwards, like, well, Trump could potentially do something that makes us all die, so let's just...
They're just gonna call that sensationalist.
You think so?
For sure.
As they're like mutilized and like blowing up. I don't know. He's really in power of some crazy stuff. Like anybody would, I think, be afraid of that, right?
Yeah, but I think that we have a defense mechanism in our brains that will not allow us to seriously contemplate that before we would actually have a rational conversation.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But I think the whataboutism too, if just advice, because I have a lot of whatabouters, super conservative Tea Party candidates, like they would love to just...
Family members,
family members, yeah. And they are super whataboutists, and they're smart people though, so I don't know if your family you would identify as smart people, but if they are... If you could maybe just tell them, hey, I understand that you have these other issues with these other things that are problematic for you, but within the context of this, that actually doesn't have any bearing on what we're actually talking about.
Or just say, that doesn't make this okay.
Right. So let's take the logical, let's follow the line of logic to the end of this.
Or concede. Yeah, maybe Obama wasn't as tough on Russia as he could have been, but that doesn't mean that this is okay. Maybe Hillary did this, but that doesn't make this okay.
Start with what
maybe
they did
Bill
wrong.
Clinton assaulted women. Yes, I hear you. Maybe Bill Clinton assaulted women, but that doesn't make it okay for Trump to do it.
That's a great argument.
The I hear you is really important. Yeah, if people will check out if you don't give them that.
If you acknowledge something, the first thing you can do when there's a debate is to acknowledge something that they are saying and support them and say, you know what, I think you're really great at this, or I think that this is one of your strengths. However, have you considered this?
Totally.
If you compliment them before you argue with them, not insult them, but
criticize,
debate, not even criticize, just debate with them or show them another side, they might be more willing to hear you, and that's true for anyone.
That makes total sense.
At Kyle Crane asked us, what are the odds that Rudy Giuliani is a prime target in the Mueller investigation? I don't think he's a prime target.
Same.
But I think he's definitely a subject. Andy J at 0210JAG wants to know, is MM refusing, that's Mitch McConnell, refusing to take the Mueller bill to vote because of loyalty to party, hiding his own skeletons, or hoping to push Trump towards firing and then ensuring the GOP can break up with Trump and be salvaged?
All three, maybe?
I think there's any number of reasons. I think it's personally, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I haven't seen evidence that makes me believe he's beholden to them in any sort of financial sense, aside from just re-election.
I don't think he's being blackmailed or anything.
Yeah.
Not like the House GOP. But, yeah, probably the latter. Push Trump towards firing and then ensuring the GOP can break up, that he can be salvaged. Like, he's trying to save the Republican Party. I think it's probably where it's coming from.
That's admirable.
It's over. At Science v. Trump asks, when Comey says things like Trump shouldn't be impeached, doesn't that suggest that there's no immediate threat that comes with him being in the White House? Yeah, and that's exactly what you were saying, Jaleesa. You're like, hey, but we could all die.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so yes, it's a great thing to think the American people should get him out, but
it's just not always the best chance.
It's also this weird thing where this is a continuing investigation about what has happened. Meanwhile, things are still happening. So when Comey's talking about, not getting him impeached or something, it is sort of blind to the fact that the consequences of what he's getting, investigated for are still playing out and are still affecting everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's big. At Sam Stanton says, it's hard for me to say.
No worries.
He wants to know, quote, what in the absolute fuck is going on?
I love when we get those questions.
I know. Yeah. It's so great. Well, Cohen, Manafort, and Giuliani are fucked. Lee Burdick wants to know, quote, was Rudy Giuliani brought in to negotiate Trump's resignation? If so, would Mueller be willing to grant him immunity to secure his resignation? That's a really interesting hypothesis. I like it. Rudy Giuliani says he was brought in to negotiate the end of the Mueller investigation, and his resignation would definitely end that. So, well, it wouldn't end it. It would end it for him.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know if Mueller would be willing to grant him immunity if he resigned. I don't think Mueller works that way. I think Mueller wants to see every investigation through to its logical and legal conclusion.
Yeah. That's a little too political of a motivation.
Yeah, that's my personal thought on it. Carl Welch asked, quote, is it a coincidence that Trump pardoned Scooter Libby right before Comey's book was released, which happened to mention how Scooter Libby was convicted for obstruction, perjury, and making false statements to the FBI in order to protect Cheney? Yes, and not only that, but he was investigated by Jim Comey.
Yeah.
So no coincidence.
Not a coincidence.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Nor was it a call to Manafort and Flynn to, stop talking. Chris Bliss asked, does the DNC civil suit involve RICO? The answer is yes. It is based on RICO charges. So good question.
Totally.
Good job. Meredith Papa says, quote, a comprehensive narrative that helps regular citizens make sense of the indictments, dossiers, and news and general Trump White House corruption. 5 stars.
Yay.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
That wasn't a question. That was a rating. Then, holy moly, you guys. Someone named Trombone Repairman emailed me. That sounds dirty.
Yeah.
Emailed me and said he was sure I was a woman named Desiree Schell because our voices sound so much alike. You guys can be the judge. Jaleesa, can you roll that clip?
Oh, yeah.
I was an activist. I started out with environmental groups, but I changed my focus to anti-poverty work, and somewhere in there I found the labor movement. I've been a full-time union organizer for the last 5 years.
Yeah, holy majoli, guys. That sounds just like me. Except she says a boat. She's got a Canadian or some sort of a North Dakota thing happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that is nuts.
It sounds just like me. I'm going to have to reach out to her and be like, hey, we're buddies.
Yeah.
She looks absolutely nothing like me, too, which is strange.
Yeah. She kind of looks like Maddow.
Yeah, she's a tiny, short, brown-haired person with glasses. And I am none of those things. Thank you so much, you guys. We hope you enjoy listening to this podcast as much as we enjoy making it. Head over to iTunes, please, and subscribe and rate our podcast. We would really appreciate it. Until next time, I've been AG.
I'm Jaleesa Johnson.
I'm Jordan Coburn.
And this is Mueller, She Wrote. Mueller, She Wrote is produced and engineered by AG with editing and logo design by Jaleesa Johnson. Market consulting by Amanda Reeder at Unicorn Creative. Our digital media director